Good morning. Glad I got a chance to spend some time with you today, and I hope it'll be an encouragement to you. Been out the last 4 days. Pat and I took a little mini vacation, went up to see the leaves changed in the mountains, and what a beautiful time it was to see God's creation and how mighty a Lord that we serve and all that He has created. But continuing our study in the book of James, we get to James chapter 1, and down in verse 13, let no man say when he is tempted that he's tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. That says, what that's telling us is this, is that when you're tempted to sin and you fall into sin because you yield to that temptation, don't blame God. It's not God's fault, it's your fault. So many times in life, what happens is we blame God for our own problems. We blame God for our sin because we say God tempted us and He shouldn't have put that there. And yet the temptation is there because we've lusted after it. We're tempted and we fall into sin. Notice what he says in verse 14, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. When he's drawn of his own lust. So what do we see about temptation and that the fact that it is our fault, it's not God's fault. God does not tempt anybody to sin. Now He tests us, but He does not tempt us to sin. So how do we see this? Well, let me give you an illustration of temptation, and a very practical illustration. As a matter of fact, it happened to me last night and again this morning. Because of my heart condition and my heart racing and running away and all, I had to give up two things that I love to eat. Two things, chocolate and caffeine. So I had to give up my coffee and I had to give up my chocolate. Now, I'm a chocoholic. I love chocolate. Now, what's in chocolate? Caffeine. And I've had to get rid of it. I had to get it out of my diet. And yet, at church tonight, we're having a men's fellowship, and Pat fixed a dessert for me to take. And what did she fix? Double fudge brownies. Now, when they came out of the oven, the aroma filled the house. And I'm sitting in the chair, tempted to go over yonder and eat one. Matter of fact, I got up and I went by and I looked at him and I said, Pat, I think I'll eat one of these brownies. She said, you'll pay the price for it. Go ahead, but you'll pay the price for it. What she's trying to do is tell me, she said, you better think about it before you do it. And so I didn't eat. Well, she goes to work this morning, goes to school this morning. I walk in there and they're sitting in the middle of the table. The temptation comes back. Why? Because I want to eat that to satisfy my taste. Yet I know it's going to be bad for me. Yet I know it's going to give me heart rhythm issues. And I have to walk by it. It's when we're drawn away of our own lust and enticed that we yield to sin. And so we've got to remove the temptation. Don't blame God for the temptation. Blame the devil. Blame yourself. It's your own lust that brings the temptation. But we have to resist it, and we have to ask God to give us the help to say no. To say no. Remember the verse, blessed is the man that endureth the temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life which the Lord promised to them that love Him. Let's resist. Let's live holy lives. Let's don't blame God. If we fall into sin, it's nobody's fault but our own. And we have to yield to the Holy Spirit and to His leading in our lives. Let's live for the Lord. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow.